An Australian film releasing in cinemas next week is a film called Everything in Between. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to the writer-director of Everything in Between, Nadi Sha. Nadi, welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having us.
Good to talk to you. And this is a really finely observed film. Tell me about the influences that prompted you to make this your debut feature film.
Okay, we're talking life influences or other film influences. We'll maybe life influences. We'll start with that.
Yeah.
I just had come off a period in my life where I had sort of been through a bit of an existential funk myself. Um, so much like the character of Jason, I was a lot older, and in retrospect, I look back and I guess you could say I was maybe perhaps a little bit taking life for granted, and that's kind of that was the seed of that story. And in terms of actual film influences, I've always gravitated towards the coming of age films that were the more traditional ones, like talking going back to the 60s, The Graduate, Love Story, early 70s, or even Ordinary People by Robert Redford. So they're more geared towards a more mature audience, a little bit more nuanced than sort of the more contemporary coming of age films that I so that was kind of the influence. I wanted to make a coming of age for adults, so to speak.
Sure, sure. No, I understand. And so tell me about the writing process of getting the script right and getting production behind you to be able to make this feature film.
Yeah, so well, they're both the same, one led to the other. So the focus was trying to create a story that was as authentic as possible, and to do that, we engaged a clinical psychologist who ended up coming on, who was part of the team as one of the co-producers, Dr. Siham Yahya, and we also had we're fortunate enough to have Dr. Cameron Armstrong, who's a consultant psychiatrist. Now, when he started consulting on the script in 2017, he was actually a psychiatrist registrar, which is one of the two characters, the woman, and then he became a consultant 3 or 4 years later as we were making the film. So it was great to have that resource. So authenticity was paramount. I'm blessed to have a co-writer, Grant Osborne, who's been probably 4 decades in this industry, so he's got more experience than I am, and also he's a fan of the classics. Him and I have a wonderful collaboration. We work really well together. We kept fine tuning the scenes over and over until we had a nicely tight package script. Which then, to answer your second question, it led to the production, because with a good script, you then we were able to attract like say we started off with a casting director. We have got Alison Meadows, who's one of the more experienced casting directors, and through that we're able to tap into an incredible pool of cast, and that's and from then we also built the production team that way. Yeah.
Huh. How interesting is that? What a great background to the story, and as you're saying, the balance between the psychological aspects of the story and the idea of depression and that sort of romance that also comes out of that storyline, balancing that and making it something important for the audience. That must have been quite a juggle for you in terms of that balancing act.
Yeah, so it certainly was. I mean, the focus of this, I should probably add that one of the story was inspired by a quote from the Prophet Khalil Gibran: "Think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course." So they sort of go hand in hand. So you've got this guy who's got an existential crisis, whose life is not for him. He's happy to check out of life. He's done with it, and then all of a sudden, this from out of nowhere, he gets life throws him a bone, so to speak. He gets another chance at it, and that kind of it really was inspired by that quote, which is saying, like, you don't know what's ahead of you, and that's one of the messages for with the film. You just don't know what tomorrow's got in store for you.
Sure. Now, an important aspect of a film like this is the casting, as you mentioned, getting a casting director on board. So tell me about finding Jordan and Freya, as well as Martin Cruz and Gigi Edgley, for example.
Yeah, so with Jordan, we started all very different strategies, so to speak, to cast them. With Jordan, we threw the net out wide. I believe Allison started off, or Mulliner started off with maybe over 400 applicants. By the time I got to look at some of the tapes, it was just over 100, and then we just narrowed it down that way till it was a handful. With Frey, with the Liz character, we didn't obviously start as wide. We wanted someone sort of more like that's been in the industry for some time. So we started with about 20, narrowed them down to a handful each, and then we started doing chemistry tests. And then we got the most perfect pair, as you could see. It was just, I couldn't have asked for a better Jordan and for a better Jason and a better Liz. With the parents, we when so Gigi was in LA when she sent through her I guess tape, so to speak. And my God, we watched it and we thought, this is her, and we stopped right there. That was, it's just perfect. And with the Martin, with the character of David, we just went through some I guess auditions, and then but we started off with the conversations, because it was important that I obviously would connect with the actors before they put a tape down. And I got on so well with Martin, and I pretty much felt he had it before he even sent something through. He just felt right, and he got the character, and then when, of course, when it came through, it was like, yeah, just as an affirmation of what I had originally felt.
The parents are very interesting characters. The mother being somewhat unsympathetic, certainly at first, and the father being more open. And I found that depiction very interesting. The way those roles were put together in the film.
Yeah, I mean, it was so important to create an interesting family dynamic. So obviously you have to go we went the polar opposite to what the boy was. He was lifeless, no life force. The dad was the exact opposite. He had a lot of energy. Mind you, it was, dissipated the wrong, and we're not going to judge and say the wrong things, but he questionable behaviors, if you want to put it that way. And the mom as well, yeah, histrionic and yeah, it's, and then also, to go into a bit of the psychological detail, they had that also played into his development. So when we're workshopping the story with the psychologist and psychiatrist, we of course we wanted the parents to be a certain way, but even that was tweaked accordingly to kind of fit in with how their child sort of responds to their behaviors.
Okay. So tell me about your directing style, because as I mentioned earlier, it's your first feature film. I know
Yeah,
you've done a short film called Kinship,
yeah.
but tell me about your style, how you work with actors. Do you do rehearsal? How
Yeah.
does it work?
So, in terms of storytelling style, it's I guess as natural as possible. I've always been drawn to films that are relatable. So that's, I guess, in terms of story, and in terms of directing, uh, I always think of the story first. So whatever it takes, I don't have a style or a specific way. It's more about what the performer needs, and I'm just there to facilitate and work with them to get the I guess the best performance possible. So yeah. And
Okay.
it is different with every one of the actors. Was different. I found I had maybe 35, 40 roles, even some of the sort of the supporting, many of the supporting roles. Everyone is different. You just work with them. And we had quite a number of sort of non-actors, non-professional actors. And we yeah, and it was again, each one very, very different. So
Tell me, how long did it take to shoot the film, and also about the locations you used?
time frame actual production was 4.5 weeks. And the locations, Now, you've obviously not, that was all shot in Sydney. And of course, it's a beautiful city. We didn't try and, it was all organic though. So any beautiful backdrops were just part of it just organically became part of the story. We weren't trying to show off the city or you know, like some films, like the films set in Paris, they are about Paris or New York, etc. It wasn't like that. It was just whatever the location to work with the story. And we also tried, because we had a lot of medical uh, sort of locations during, COVID, where it was, so it's extra tricky. We worked with some medical practices that were able to give us, allow us to shoot overnight. So it was quite tricky in that way. So we would take over medical practice at 6 p.m. and have to have it back at 4 or 5 a.m. So yeah, it wasn't easy shooting the medical scenes.
Okay. Yes, yes. Shooting during COVID. I've spoken to so many filmmakers, and that is quite a challenge. but
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
obviously got there.
yeah, yeah,
Tell,
yeah. We did actually. We have a movie, so we did get there. Oh,
yeah.
actually, I had to think about that. Did we get there? Yeah, only just.
And without giving any spoilers away for people who are going to see the film in cinemas, the title is quite meaningful in the way it's revealed at the very end of the
Yeah,
film. And would I be right
yeah.
in saying that everything was written beforehand, or did you alter the way the film ended as you were filming?
No, it was always intended that way. It was, we were quite faithful to the script, and yeah, it was. We did have an alternate ending, which we thought of, especially, it was more in the edit, actually, more so than the thing. But yeah, I don't want to. That would be a spoiler alert. So,
Yes.
but. And we tested it in the edit room, but no, we ended up going with the more traditional, the one that was written, which is the one that you saw.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So now tell me, getting the film released is of course, the next battle. Trying to
Yeah.
have it distributed and shown in cinemas. What were the challenges there?
Look, the challenges were, I'll tell you, we're releasing the same day as Black Adam, so I think that in itself answers the question, and that's the honest truth. This is the challenge, is that they're businesses. They've got livelihoods. They've financial commitments, and they need to serve their own interests. So as much as people want to help an Australian story, a beautifully shot little indie film, at the end of the day, it is it's the challenges that we're competing against much larger films that have, I like, they're ribbon wrapped nicely. They're packaged in a better way than our film. Our film is more substance. It's more what's inside, really, rather than the cover of the book.
Well, with that, what you just said in mind, are you hoping that the film will serve some sort of educational sort of support for people who might be going through similar situations that certainly the young man goes through,
Yeah,
in the hope that it can help them?
yeah, of course. I mean, that would be incredible if we're able. I mean, that's, in a way, that was the intent, even if it's subconscious. So the film is never intended to be like a solution to mental health. That's such a personal journey, of course.
Mm.
But we did want to do our bit in sort of destigmatizing the topic by creating, I guess, like a story that revolves around the subject matter. So ideally, yeah, it would be incredible if we're able to reach. So I mean, it already has, even just from test screenings. The feedback has been incredibly positive. Uh, and mind you, it's also, on a rare occasion, it is quite triggering for just a few so far, but it can go either way. So, but for the most part, overwhelmingly positive, which is great. And sometimes triggering is not a bad thing, because some people need, it's, whether it's this film or a conversation, another conversation they may have with someone, at the end of the day, it's just, yeah, how it is when someone's been through trauma. It's in many cases it's just a matter of any incident can trigger them. So yeah.
And I'm also then wondering the impact that the character had on Jordan, your lead actor, because I don't know how much of any sort of personal issues he brings to the film, but he must have found that perhaps sometimes difficult to play.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke about that at length, and we fortunately had a clinical psychologist. I mentioned her, Dr. Siham Yahya, who was on set the whole time, and even with the rehearsals earlier on, and we talked about that. And there were when we sent out the the scenes earlier on, we'd have a disclaimer that the story some readers may find is confronting. So we kind of did it with a we had a bit of a warning on that as well, but we also had to make sure that they're comfortable to be able to work with the subject matter.
Okay, okay, very good,
Yeah.
very good to
Sorry,
hear
can
that.
I just add wanted to add one other thing that
Yes.
with the hoping to reach the the audiences with the Australian teachers of media have actually covered our film. They've done
Ah,
a study guide recommending it for years 9 to 12. So even though I was saying we're trying to um, maybe attract an older crowd with the story, but they found it very relevant for students. Yeah, in 9 to 12th grades. So I hope many students get to watch this film and take something from it.
yes, yes. No, I can see that it would have that sort of positive purpose, perhaps for young people. Um, it's interesting to note that the film is in the mix for the Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts Awards. I notice it's in there with
Mm.
32 films who are who are part of the
Yeah, it is.
and as a member, it's very interesting to see having seeing these independent films and these smaller films competing with
Yeah,
obviously the big blockbuster type films like
yeah,
Elvis and so on,
yeah,
which is always an interesting
yeah,
process.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Look, for me, fortunately, filmmaking is about moving the heart. It's not about the size of the budget, you know. So,
Mm,
um, it doesn't really. If you think about it, sure, you could have $100 million film. Like I said, we're opening the same day as Black Adam,
mm.
but at the end of the day, it's how you feel when you're whilst watching it, but also when you walk outside, or even the next day when you reflect on it. So yes, we're competing against much larger films, but it shouldn't. I guess. I mean, in theory, it shouldn't impact the voting because it's all about yeah, how we feel rather than what the actual the money that's the amount of money that was spent on the production.
Oh, I absolutely agree. It's all about the story. That's always the bottom
Yeah,
line for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
So apart from the release in Australia, and will everything in between perhaps also be released elsewhere?
Yes, we already received an offer from China out of all places. They approached Beijing Film Festival approached me to um, uh, have send them the film for their market, which is great because I didn't even, to be honest, didn't even realize knew they had a market. But the feedback was quite positive, and some reviewer gave us the most outstanding review. Something about these guys rewrite the pain of youth. It was a really like I mean, it was translated, but and we were featured there with the remake with the release of the 50th anniversary of The Godfather as the only two non East Asian films. The rest were Chinese or Korean, etc. So it was a great honor to be up there with our poster and that little quote. And ever since we got an offer, so we're talking to China, and there's also inquiries from other countries as well and offers. So yeah, it's um, nothing's confirmed yet, but we're really hoping that I mean it is a universal story, so it's meant for the whole world. It's physically close to home. We shot it here in Sydney in the east, but thematically it's relatable anywhere in the world.
Oh, exactly. It's a universal humanistic story. Absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Nadi, I'm intrigued. Are you looking to make another film at the moment?
Yeah, we've like we've written quite a few. So there's another one. I feel like the next one is also going to be a small one, because I've got so much to learn. Having been through this process as the first one, of course, there's the learning curve was so steep. So I think it's going to be another small, like an independent film like this. Yeah, of this. So again, but they're all virtually all the films that I've written are slice of life, relatable, yeah, a human condition type stuff, which, yeah, yeah. So it'll be one of those.
Okay. And obviously, making feature films always takes a long time, and getting them completed, etc. So, how do you survive on a day-to-day basis? Not from film budgets.
No, I look, I mean, it's a personal question, but I'll share. I had another career before that. It was a successful one, believe it or not. So, I studied civil engineering, but I also did property development. And honestly, I was just been fun, like really selling assets and living off that. So, but we're now we're now at a time where, yeah, I'm proud to say that we're going to release this week and hopefully sell some tickets. And for the first time in 12 and a half years, but who's counting, that I'm going to receive an income from this, from an in like this, yeah, from this industry.
Oh, I wish you well with that. Was there a trigger point that made you decide you wanted to be a filmmaker?
Look, it was, I think, having written quite a few stories and no one wanting to do them. So I'm like, you know what? Someone needs to tell these stories. So yeah, they're just too beautiful to sit on a shelf or on a hard drive, even worse.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. We've been speaking to Nadi Shah, who is the writer director of Everything in Between in cinemas from the 20th of October. Go and see it. It's certainly worth seeing. And Nadi, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you so much, Peter. Really, really appreciate this. Thank you.
Okay. All the best.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.